Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. As part of a comprehensive news analysis today, we'll be discussing 5 very interesting articles out of the Hindu Newspaper Delhi edition. But before we begin, 2-3 important things. First, if you're finding these sessions productive, do like, share and subscribe to the channel itself. And more than that, once this session is over, there is a quiz ready for you on our Telegram channel. So do like, share and subscribe to our Telegram channel. And if you haven't, the link is given in the description below. Now, with this, we start analysis for today. And we have 5 topics dealing with different aspects related to your GS preparation. This is more GS paper 2 and GS paper 1-ish, but more related to GS paper 2, which is polity and something related to curative petitions, and more than that, it has an aspect of history in it, which is the Bhopal gas tragedy. So what is the context? As always, we'll discuss the basics, then go into the nitty-gritty, and then we'll summarize it in the end. So before you go into the data given in the article itself, there are 2-3 things which you need to know in your mind. First thing is, which is called the Bhopal gas tragedy, which is the context of the article itself, because recently the government has put in, rather recently, it's been 10 years rather, in 2010 they put in a curative petition, and that petition, the judgment has been reserved. So now we have to revisit this topic itself, which is the Bhopal gas tragedy. So what is the Bhopal gas tragedy? 2nd, 3rd December 1984, a major industrial accident happened in India, one of the biggest in that regard, in which the Union Carbide Corporation of India, also now known as Union Carbide Corporation, UCC, it had a pesticide plant within Bhopal itself and used to deal with a lot of poisonous gases. One of those poisonous gases, methyl isocyanate, was leaked in the night of 2nd, 3rd December 1984, and because of this leakage, and there was a long history, close to months of repair and a lot of red flags which were there that this leak is going to happen, but the UCC did not give a lot of heed to it, and with the leakage of the methyl isocyanate, MIC as it is called, with the leakage of MIC itself, there was a major consequence to the health of the people in and around the pesticide plant itself, and more than that, there have been close to 5 lakh people who have been affected for close to 30 years now with the effects of MIC, which is the cyanate part of it, and it actually changes the genetic combination of the people affected or the people who inhale it. People are having cancer, they are having long-term effects, and we'll discuss what is the real context in it, why is that the curative petition went through. So the basic point is the Bhopal gas tragedy, one of the most horrific tragedies in Indian history itself, with close to 5,000 people dead within 3 months of the accident itself, and close to 5 lakh people affected till today. And the UCC, which is now technically owned by the Dow Chemicals, is now under heat. It has been under heat for now close to 30 years, but is under heat because of the curative petition itself. So the first point is, what is the context? The context is the Bhopal gas tragedy. It is one of the most important and one of the most horrific tragedies in itself. First point. Second point is that what is this curative petition? When we talk about the curative petition itself, there is a review petition, there is a curative petition. Curative petition is considered the last hope within the judicial mechanism itself, and we'll discuss the concept itself, how does it come through. But the basic point is, this happened in 1984. In 1989, there was a judgment, and the judgment which came from Supreme Court gave compensation to the people affected, close to 470 million, which would come to 700 crore rupees, which was given to the government of India to compensate the people. However, the curative petition says that this 700 crores is not enough because the estimated number of people affected has gone up, and 600 crore rupees more the government of India is asking from Dow Chemicals, technically the UCC or the UCIL, to pay to the people as compensation for what they did in 1984 itself, a horrific accident, and all negligence. The accident could have been avoided with basic safety procedures, but all were ignored. All were ignored. So the basic first point is it's the Bhopal gas tragedy, but the second point is the concept of curative petition, which is asking for more money because of the actual people affected number going up rather than the estimated, because the estimated in 1989 was close to 20 to 50,000 people, but now we have that number at 5,74,000 people, which is a very big amount. And within the 1989 judgment itself, there was an aspect that in the unlikely event that the compensation is not enough, the government of India could ask for more. And this is what they're playing with. Though Dow Chemicals is saying that we can't be always paying more and more as per the shifting goalpost itself, which makes no sense. But the basic point of the matter is Bhopal gas tragedy and the Bhopal gas case itself is a blot in Indian history when it comes to industrial accidents, but the curative petition is now showing that we need to revisit a lot of these accidents, be it small or big, and we need to change our approach in that sense of how we compensate people. So there are two basic points here. First, the Bhopal gas tragedy. First, I hope that you understand the context. Second is the curative petition itself, why we are discussing it here under GS paper 2. So the first point is, do you understand the context? Is that clear? Everybody, come on. Live chat. Good morning. Yes, you do. Okay. You understand the context. Now, UCI is a private corporation under Dow Chemicals now. Every government of India versus a private body here. Second, so the first point is Bhopal gas tragedy, December 2nd, 3rd, 1984. MIC, which is methyl isocyanate, leaks into the Bhopal sector, pesticide plant, people get affected, major effect on children because the MIC is very, very dense, it is denser than air, so it stays at the lower level. The children were shorter in height, therefore they inhaled it more. More you inhale it, the more it affects you, and these children over a generations now, 3 generations, have shown effects of this poisoning itself. Second is the curative petition aspect, which is related to the aspect of what we call as the curative petition for more money. So more money, why? Because the actuals have changed, the people affected have changed. These two basic points clear, then we move forward. Yes, it is a chemical, it's a chemical. Can we move forward to the nitty-gritty now? You understand the basic point? Okay, you do. So world's largest industrial disaster, Bhopal gas leak, 2nd, 3rd December 1984. Methyl isocyanate is a chemical, it's a gas which was kept in liquid form, starts to leak, and the Union Carbide India Limited, UCIL, now called UCC, Union Carbide Corporation, is the one which leads to this negligence, to number of deaths. Now, why is this thing in news? Because Bhopal gas tragedy 34 years now, but why is it in news? It is in news because the Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court under S.K. Kaul, Justice S.K. Kaul, has a curative petition for which the judgment has been reserved, and it was put in by the center, and the initial 1989 judgment gave 725 crore rupees as compensation to be given by UCC to the government of India, to be given to the people affected in Bhopal. But the curative petition says that we need additional 675 crores for compensation because of the actual number of people affected, which was underestimated in the 1989 judgment. So this is the context. This is why we are discussing it. This is why it becomes relevant for your preparation. Now, let's look at the numbers. Why there needs to be additional compensation? Why do we need to do this? The fact is that when in 1989 the judgment, first judgment with regards to compensation, when the UCC was held accountable for what they did, the estimates were very, very less. For example, as of May 4th, 1989, deaths were 3,000. But in 2022, as of last year, we now know that 5,479 people died because of the gas leak itself, and we have 16,739. The data is irrelevant, but the fact of the matter is close to 16,000 people have cancer and renal failure in 6,000 people. Therefore, close to 30,000 people have been affected by death, renal failure or cancer, and this was nothing related to the 3,000 which were estimated in 1989. So maybe 700 crores was enough in 1989, but now it isn't. Further, temporary disability, minor injury cases, 20,000 and 50,000. This was the estimation in 1989. As of right now, we know that 35,000 people have temporary disability because it is it starts to go into the genes, it affects the genes, so it is passed on in generations. The poisoning is so bad that it affects generations. So temporary disability, 35,000 people, and minor injury cases, 50,000 was estimated. It is 5 lakh. So the total was assumed to be 2 lakh people. Assumed 2 lakh people were affected when it comes to death, disability, property and livestock. However, the real estimate is 5,74,000 people who actually got affected in this whole episode. And this is double to what was estimated in 1989 itself. The data which comes from the gas relief department of the Bhopal administration itself tells us that 2,000 gas victims every day undergo medical treatment at the center, and 4,000 victims go through treatment in the hospitals in Bhopal itself. 6,000 people every day have to go through the horrors of the Bhopal gas tragedy because of the negligence of that company itself. So therefore, this is the context in which the center wanted to go for a curative petition. They said that we will not go for a review petition, we will straight away go for a curative petition in which justice is incomplete, justice has not been served, and now we need 6,000 more, 600 crore more as compensation. 700 crores is not enough. The point is that the compensation is vis-a-vis the quantum of damage which has happened. So the curative petition aspect is the second thing which you need to know for your preparation, because now the static portion of curative becomes important. So the first is Bhopal gas tragedy. Now we have new estimation in which 5 lakh people were affected, and there is this aspect of increased compensation. Now, what is the concept of curative petition? So the curative petition concept comes through via a judgment called Ashok Hura versus Rupa Hura case. This is a 2002 judgment of the Supreme Court itself, and it is the rarest of rarest remedies. You can have what is called a review petition in which the Supreme Court can review its judgment itself, but a curative petition is given when the duty to do justice shall have to prevail over the policy of certainty of a judgment, and declining justice would be oppressive to the judicial conscience and perpetuation an irremediable justice or injustice in that regard. So the basic point of the matter is, it is believed that when injustice is served or justice is incomplete, the curative petition goes through. And there are 2 cases in which curative petition can go through. He or she did not get opportunity to be heard, or that the judges were biased. So the center is using the first aspect, that the other 2 lakh people were not heard in the 1989 judgment, so therefore they need to get justice in this case. So the basic point of the matter is curative petition. Remember the case itself, where it comes from, the aspect related to the aspect of injustice and the fact that the judicial conscience will be undermined if justice is not fully served in that sense. So this is technically judicial language, but the basic aspect is when it is believed that the judgment is not doing justice to the quantum of damage itself, curative petition can go through. Now, what is the core issue here? What is the core issue here? The core issue is that complete justice to the victim of the Bhopal or the victims of the Bhopal gas tragedy should be done. UCC needs to pay up. UCC, the Union Carbide, says that you're reopening the case, but the center says we're just adding to it. And more than that, within the 1989 judgment, there was a clause that in the unlikely event that the funds are found insufficient, there can be a revision of the compensation itself. So before we go to the next topic, let me summarize this whole concept. Till this point, everybody is following me. Come on. Yes, no? Yes, you are. Now, what is the core concept here? 3 things you need to remember here. First aspect is related to Bhopal gas tragedy. You have to know the static portion again. It was in the news. So, Bhopal gas tragedy, MIC, methyl isocyanate, 2nd, 3rd, 1984, December, and the aspect related to negligence of the UCIL, Union Carbide Corporation of India. Now, the second aspect is related to the quantum of damage and how over a period of time we need to review compensation. 1989 judgment gave 700 crores, but that was not enough over a period of time. 2022 we see the real quantum, 5 lakh people, so curative petition to change it. Now the concept of curative petition. Curative petition is the last remedy, rarest of rarest remedies. Review petition the government of India didn't go for. Curative petition is when it is believed that justice is not served fully or injustice is being done. Therefore, they go for a curative petition. 2 grounds, not heard, judges biased. Here it was about the fact that 2 lakh people, close to 2 lakh people were not heard, meaning that these new generations which have been born in the Bhopal sector near the UCC plant itself are the ones who are getting affected and they need to be heard. So for the purpose of the examination means I have a question for you to practice itself, but you need to remember Bhopal gas tragedy. Now please do in your environment section itself, environmental history part itself, you have to go through Bhopal gas tragedy. Second, the aspect related to curative petitions. Curative petition is not related to fundamental rights. It's not part of the fundamental rights part of the constitution. Rather, it's a judicial innovation which comes out of the 2002 judgment itself. And remember the aspect related to because it's an ethical issue also, how quantum of damage and compensation go together and how we need to review it from time to time. Make sense? Then we move to the second topic. Come on. UCC is not operating in Bhopal now, obviously not. Right. The second topic somehow is also related to air and is related to a very interesting campaign which was launched 4 years back, which is called the National Clean Air Campaign, the NCAP or the NCAC. The basic point of the matter is that we know that India has an issue of air pollution. We are technically industrializing and we have cities which are surrounded by industries. Air pollution, if you're living in Delhi, I don't need to tell you, is a major issue. And we have stubble burning generally related to vehicular pollution, construction activities. But this was identified in 4 years back also that 131 cities in India, not just Delhi, are what are called non-attainment cities or cities which are fully polluted. And we introduced a campaign called the National Clean Air Campaign, under which PM 2.5, particulate matter 2.5 and 10 was what we were targeting. Now again try to understand the basics here, which is that the article tries to point out how has been the performance of this campaign itself. The NCAP, how has it performed over a period of time? And the progress has been slow, that is the word which they are using, and incremental reduce in, which is that very slow reduction in PM 2.5 or PM 10 concentration in air itself. Now there are 2 aspects here. First related to governance, it's GS paper 3 also and GS paper 2 also. But the basic point of the matter is that why is that we are so lethargic or we are so slow to respond to air pollution? And the problem here is that all cities with their pace of urbanization and the way we are developing, we can't concentrate on everything and anything or specifically on air pollution. Because somehow, as of right now, India's development story goes with air pollution itself. So this is a cautionary tale. This tells you the performance of something, and what you do with the data here is, you are going to talk about air pollution in GS paper 3, which is environment aspect, but whenever there's an essay or anything related to air pollution, use the data saying that our response has been lukewarm, Now, there's again data within the article irrelevant to you, but the trend is important. So the first aspect is, how is the NCAP performing? And the answer to it is slow, and it is very, very incremental, meaning very slow growth. Now, the government of India, the center itself and the states are playing a game here also, because the first target was that by 2024, with base year as 2017, we will reduce 20 to 30% of the PM 2.5 and 10. However, once they felt that 2024 was not possible, they changed the target itself. It's a shifting goalpost. 2026, 40%. Now the point is, it makes no sense to increase it by 10% and then say that, okay, 2026, 2 years we add more, when most of the performance of the cities are not as per mark. We don't technically have, in close to 43 cities of these 131, the equipment to even measure PM 2.5 and 10. And we needed to add 300 monitoring stations every year, and we've only made, in the last 4 years, 180 monitoring stations. So the basic point of the matter is, somehow pollution, environment is still taking a backseat, which should not be the case in the larger context of our development story. And if India wants to have sustainable growth, this is not the way forward. So there are two aspects here again. First, related to the NCAP performance. I'll talk about that when we'll go into the nitty-gritty. But second is the aspect of environment always taking a backseat when it comes to development. And this is a flawed concept in itself. So do you understand these two basic points? This is the same thing, National Clean Air Campaign. These 2 points are clear. Then we move on and we go into the concept, the basic nitty-gritty itself. Okay, perfect. Now, the National Clean Air Campaign, what did it do? Based on the evidence that Indian cities are polluted, it identified 131 cities in Delhi itself, in India itself, which were not attaining the desired number or the desired level of PM 2.5 and 10, and these cities were called the non-attainment cities. Now, what was the target which was set? So for PM 2.5, it should be 40. If you've seen any data, it shows in Delhi it used to be 325, 400, 500. Now it should be 40 microns and 60 for PM 10. And the first target was PM 10 and 2.5, 20 to 30% reduction by 2024, base year 2017. However, all this is on paper. All this is on paper, wherein particulate matter 2.5 microns means that the particle size is 2.5 microns, 10 microns, which is very, very small, and is inhaled with air and impacts our lungs itself. Now, the basic point of the matter is, this was the first target. When launched, this was the first target. However, what we've done is that we've either changed the goalpost itself, or what we've done is that we have seen that the most of these cities are not performing up to the mark itself. So in September 2022, the center moved the goalpost, saying that we will reduce 40% from 20 to 30%, but by 2026. So first we changed the goalpost. Second, only 38 of the 131 cities were actually giving annual pollution reduction targets and meeting them in the last fiscal year itself. So only 38 cities were actually performing and giving us annual data. And to get the real picture, we needed to install 300 manual air quality monitoring stations, and we've only added 180. Again, this data is irrelevant. The basic point of the matter is, we are first changing the target itself, and second, we do not have the equipment or technology in most of the cities to even check what is the PM 2.5 and 10, so which is even more concerning, that we don't care only. And if you go into the tangible improvements itself, Delhi PM 2.5 level has improved by 7% compared to 2019, but 7% is minuscule. When it was 323 to 500 average, then 7% reduction is still in severe area. Thereafter, now all three cities of Bihar, which is the non-attainment cities, Patna, Muzaffarpur and Gaya, are now in the first three in the top 10 in the cities polluted by PM 2.5. 9 of the 10 cities which were most polluted in 2019 have reduced their numbers, but the concentration level is still very, very off than what the Central Pollution Control Board annual average safe limit is. And only 14 of the 43 cities registered a 10% or more reduction in their PM 2.5 level within the last 2 years. And if you take into account the fact that we had COVID with no cars on the road, this data is skewed in itself, because if it's 2019 to 2021 data, vehicular pollution went down automatically because of no cars, because of the lockdowns itself, and industrial production also went down. Therefore, all this reduction is superficial in that sense. PM 2.5, a lot of you are asking PM 2.5. PM means particulate matter, the particles in the air. 2.5 and 10 microns is the size. This is basic environment. If you're preparing for UPSC, this is basic environment. You should know PM 2.5, carbon monoxide, NO2, what is the basic pollutants in the air, and PM 2.5 is the dust particles, particulate matter, 2.5 and 10 microns. That is the size itself. Now, as I said, data is immaterial. I don't care if you remember the data itself. There are 3 trends which are emerging here. First, we don't care about our monitoring, which is not good, because we need to add monitoring stations. Second, the aspect related to the cities not performing, and mostly they are changing their targets as per their going forward, and that is not a good aspect. Third is the NCAP not being very, very effective. It is effective when it comes to short-term targets, but not over a long term. So if the 131 cities are taken into account, basically 10 or 15 are actually performing, and half of them we don't even know the data itself. So the basic point here is, before we move on to the third topic itself, is that just launching a scheme is not the answer. Environment, if it is always taking a backseat vis-a-vis development, is also not a good thing. And this is something which you need to learn as a UPSC aspirant, because in ethics, when we have the case study itself or the questions when they are coming, you have to keep sustainable development, what we call as green development, first, and then talk about pollution, then talk about development. So when we talk about Delhi in itself is a very precarious or very, very problematic city, because of the fact that it is always pushing the buck to Punjab, Haryana, stubble burning, and with all these different types of solutions, still stubble burning is happening, and pollution is an issue in Delhi. But these other 130 cities, they don't have that excuse. How are they responding is equally important, and the response is they are not even monitoring. And these things, particulate matter 2.5 and 10, has long-term health impacts. The lung capacity goes down, respiratory diseases, genetic diseases, asthma becomes a problem. And we, as of right now, are not taking this into account. We believe whatever is short-term impact is short-term impact. But over the long run, it is impacting all of us in that sense. So the first topic was related to the curative petition with the Bhopal gas tragedy, and this is also related to air pollution in that sense, that the NCAP is not performing to the level it should, and we need to change our strategy in that sense. And the basic data is indicating that we are not monitoring, and most of the cities are underperforming. This makes sense, everybody? What is the solution? The solution is awareness, is more policy makers becoming more aware, and the aspect that NCAP needs to, the Central Pollution Control Board needs to be more proactive, monitoring stations need to be coming through, there needs to be some incentivization. There's a lot of things in that sense. NCAP is a scheme, not a statutory body. It's a scheme. Okay, can we move forward to the third topic? PM is not a tool to measure air pollution, it is one of the indicators of air pollution. Okay. Now, some good news in the sense of our pharma sector. The pharma sector has profiteered over the past 3 years over COVID-19 itself, but they have a new and important development with regards to a free trade agreement, an interim free trade agreement which has happened with Australia. Now again, I'll give you the basic here. The basic of the matter here is that when it comes to pharmaceutical sector, there are a lot of indicators, a lot of regulatory mechanism which has been actually put through. And India's export of pharma means the pharmaceutical sector, means medicine sector, 55% of it is actually going to very developed countries. But when it is developed countries, their regulatory indicators, thresholds are quite high. Now what has happened with regards to the Australia Free Trade Agreement is that though it is not going to impact the pharma sector, the medicine sector right now immediately, but there's an important precedence which has been put through in that FTA. That if, when we talk about all the different inspections which need to happen in the factories in which the medicines are made, specifically the generic medicines, it says that if there is already a report of a comparable regulatory authority, for example, Australian regulatory authority was going there, but the factory had already been assessed by the US, the UK or Canada or Japan, what it says is that if there's a report of a comparable regulatory authority which has already inspected the factory, we can use that report and not do the inspection again. So under the interim free trade pact with Australia, there is this new concept that the report of a comparable regulatory authority can be used for the same authority so as to reduce the time of entry point. So see, understand one thing. If an Indian company wants to sell a medicine in Australia, the Australian authorities will say that we need these basic indicators to be ticked, that these should all be positive. Now, what is going to happen is that the FDA, the food and the authority which checks, for example, for FDA in US, Australia would have a regulatory authority which is going to check that the medicines are made in the right conditions. So they will send a team, that team is going to come, inspect, write a report, they will say yes, all these things are positive. Now what this is going to do is, this new change is going to say that if there was a check by a US based FDA or the UK or the Canadian or the Japanese authorities have already checked and there's a report saying that everything is positive, we will just use that. We will not inspect again. This reduces the time of entry into the market and makes it easier for the pharma sector to go into that market quickly and more easily. And this is why this is a new and very important development in that regard. This will boost the pharma sector over the long period of time, meaning in the next 2 to 3 years, we can show the Australian precedents to other countries and say that you also use the same rule, that if we already have our inspection report, use it and don't every time push or send a basic committee to check this. So the interim free trade pact with Australia, which will have no immediate impact of India's pharmaceutical exports to down under, which is Australia itself, but a major relaxation on factory inspections can pave way for such things to be dealt with the developed countries and fast track India's entry into these markets itself. Therefore, in India is exporting to Australia close to $387 million worth of medicines, generic medicines, and this will help us boost our exports. So it's a good thing for our economy that the Indian pharmaceutical industries can push the export numbers higher because of this. So let's try to understand what is the major concession which has been given within the free trade pact or free trade agreement. Apart from market access, which was given, that Australian market is now open to the pharmaceutical sector itself, the most important breakthrough has been fast tracking of clearances for the pharma products by utilizing reports of comparable regulatory authorities from US, UK, Japan and Canada. So if I had to inspect a factory, if any of these countries has already inspected that factory, that report will stand and I don't need to review it again. Now, this will avoid for duplication of factory inspection by utilizing good manufacturing practices report and will prove helpful in fast tracking the entry of that pharma company into that economy. About 55% of India's pharma export is based on the developed countries, in which you need the highest US FDA approval, and the pharma industry and the governments are now going to ask for similar treatment from other countries. So this topic is very easy, very small, but very, very significant. The significance is the fact that now India is pushing for pharma, which it is for quite a long time now, but we are now getting tangible results. And the first result is every country will not have to inspect, and India, and in the context of Indian medicines now coming into the forefront with people dying, children dying in certain countries, the fact of the matter is this is a major breakthrough wherein Indian companies can enter the market and their factory inspection time has gone down, therefore entry can be fast tracked. So before we move on to the last two topics, I hope everybody is following me till this point. These three topics I will summarize, then move forward. These three clear, everybody? Okay. So what have we done till this point? First, we tried to understand Bhopal gas tragedy, increase in compensation, curative petition. Second, we then tried to understand the concept of the NCAP, how the scheme itself is not meeting its targets, and the aspect related to environment and environment vis-a-vis development, and the cities not having monitoring stations. And the third aspect is related to a major breakthrough in our export economy, which is when it comes to pharma, now factory inspections can be fast-tracked because of the aspect of using comparable reports from the US, UK, Japan and Canada. Can we move on? Generic medicines, there are specialized medicines, there are generic medicines. For example, paracetamol is a generic medicine. It is available in every country, it's a very standard. You would have seen this written on a lot of different medicines. This is called a specialized medicine for which you need prescription. Standard medicines are called generic medicines. Generic medicines more or less have the same economy, whole of the same the chemical composition over different countries itself. Okay, it is a free trade pact. It's moving towards an agreement. It's an interim FTA. And don't go into what is a SECA, what is a FTA. Don't confuse yourself. And when I'm saying interim free trade agreement or pact, it is an interim thing. It is moving towards an pact. It is moving towards an agreement. It is a pact as of right now, but a major one in that sense. Generic means generic. Paracetamol, if you penicillin, for example, you ask for it in India or ask for it in America, the chemical composition is the same, and most probably it is going to be cheap. Generic medicines are very cheap, not specialized medicines. Okay, now this aspect related to getting this breakthrough, while there may not be any significant impact with regards to Australia, Indian products can get clearance in other countries more quickly because of this precedence. This is the basic point. India can now fast track its pharma exports because the time of inspection has gone down. The pact has already been signed. Interim means that they are trying to move it and make it bigger. It is, as of right now, this news is developing. More aspects will be added. If it was not signed, we would not be discussing it right now. Okay. Now, two small topics, but equally interesting. First is microfinance institutions and how a report has said that it has played a very important role with regards to how poverty alleviation is happening in India, and more than that, how it is integrating farmers, small shopkeepers, vendors in that sense. So the first aspect here is, what is a microfinance institution? So you would have seen Bandhan Bank, now it has become a major bank in that sense, but Bandhan Bank used to be a microfinance institution. Now a lot of these microfinance institutions are now becoming bigger banks, but a simple example is Bandhan Bank, but I'll try to explain it to you. There's something called a micro loan. Micro loan means any loan, any credit which is less than 1 lakh rupees. If it is less than 1 lakh rupees, it is considered a micro loan. So in India, there are certain institutions which are called microfinance institutions which cater to households with annual income with less than or up to 3 lakh rupees, and they give collateral free loans to them. Basically, for that loan there is no collateral. They have not taken a house or some form of asset as collateral. Basically, the loan amount needs to be less than 1 lakh rupees, and the aspect is that the household income should be less than 3 lakh rupees or up to 3 lakh rupees annually with collateral free loans. So what this report is pointing out, which has been given by the Association of Microfinance Institutions of India and the PwC, the aspect is, which is PricewaterhouseCoopers, they have argued that basically these two have argued that microfinance institutions, this sector is increasing very quickly. It has been showing a growth of 11% year on year. And when it comes to alleviating poverty, impacting poverty itself, it has become a major tool in itself. So this report is talking about how India's economic growth story, MFIs, which is microfinance institutions, are playing a very important role in making sure that the people who are outside the ambit of basic credit or are not given access to credit are coming within the credit institution or regime in India itself. So microfinance institutions, which act like a financial support system, financial inclusion in India, again GS paper 3, to low income households by offering credit access to 6 crore borrowers. So 6 crore people in India were outside the ambit of the credit institutions. Now they have been brought in with very small loans, but very significant for them in that sense, and is playing a leading role in the progress of India itself. And the basic point of the matter is this economy, the microfinance institution industry itself, this economy itself has been growing by $122 billion and is going to grow with the same within the next 5 years. So this economy is expanding. It will become even bigger, and it is showing a compound growth of 11% year on year. So basically the MFI industry, the microfinance institution, is going to be a very big industry by 2026. What is collateral free? Collateral free means when you are going to take a loan, if you take for example a loan of 50 lakh rupees, the bank asks for a collateral, that you keep your house, girvi jisko bolte, that you keep something as collateral. That collateral free, in microfinance institutions there is no concept of what we call as collaterals. Collateral free micro loans to households having annual income less than 3 lakh rupees. Now, these institutions have played a very important role in poverty alleviation. Please remember, there can be a question with regards to microfinance institutions and their role in independent India, and this is a very important article with regards to GS paper 3. And from 2017, what has been the game changer is that MFIs have been embracing the digital route, giving access to the online delivery channels, the aspect to e-wallets, mobile banking and digitization. So basically they're using the digital revolution well. However, the major challenge for MFIs in India is that their products need to be very specific and need to be diverse, because when it comes to small farmers, vendors or laborers, each have their different roles. So what this article is again trying to talk about within the Hindu itself is that they are a major engine of development when it comes to financial inclusion and financial institutions, and MFIs are important. The static portion becomes relevant for you generally, but the aspect here is very simple, which is that they have a challenge that they need to have very specific products, and their products need to be diverse because of the diverse channels in which they are going. But this industry is going to be very big, close to 122 billion right now, and is increasing and has been showing a growth of 11% year on year. And India needs to make sure, the center needs to make sure, the government of India needs to make sure that we make sure that MFIs are supported, and we use this news and as an encouraging story in the longer perspective, the larger perspective of financial inclusion in India. Financial inclusion is a very important subtopic within GS paper 3. Remember, MFIs are playing a very important role. Now when it is coming in the Hindu newspaper, it has become an important topic, static and current affairs both. This data can be used in your examination. Is this clear? Then we move to the last topic, a very small topic, very easy topic with regards to Veterans Day and a small scheme which has been introduced. Come on. Is everybody with me? Till this point, no issues. It is not interest free. Interest is lower than if it was going to be in a major bank. So most probably if in a major bank a 1 lakh loan would be 7%, 14%, it would be 4%, 2%. Interest rates are lower. Okay. Last topic, Soul of Steel Endurance Challenge. So yesterday was Veterans Day, and on which the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh has kick-started a new scheme called the Soul of Steel Alpine Challenge. Now under it, it's very simple. It's a challenge which has been introduced because it's related to the army itself, Veterans Day itself, armed forces. It's a high altitude endurance challenge in which men and women aged between 18 to 30 can sign up to show endurance and show that they have their soul is of steel, metaphorically, which is that they can show high endurance at high altitude, and it's a way of showing physical fitness. So basically, it's an initiative to promote tourism in the border areas, and it was introduced in Dehradun. The concept is expedition will test one's high altitude endurance, will initially have 12 Indian participants plus 6 international teams, age group 18 to 30. Challenge will be spread across different months, and there is a website which has been introduced in which people can sign up for this, and technically it is going to push for tourism, which is endurance challenges, tests, which is in tourism in border areas, and more than that, it's about promoting the concept of physical fitness in the larger perspective. So with this, before we go to the mains question, let me summarize what we've done till this point. We've done 5 topics today. The first topic, remember 3 very simple things. First, Bhopal gas tragedy, 2nd and 3rd December 1984. MIC, remember this, which is methyl isocyanate. The UCC company, which is the Union Carbide Corporation. Major leak leads to deaths and long-term impact because of the poisoning. It has a long-term impact over 3 generations. In 1989, there was a judgment which gave compensation close to 725 crores. But the government of India has gone for a curative petition, which is a rarest of rarest remedy within the judicial mechanism when it is believed that justice is not served. And they're asking for 675 crore rupees more because they believe that the quantum is not matching the compensation. And now we know that close to 5 lakh people were impacted. Second topic which we did was related to the aspect of the NCAP, the National Clean Air Program, and how it is not performing to the level it should be, and the aspect of PM 2.5, PM 10, GS paper 3, very, very important. More than that, you need to remember no monitoring stations, underperforming, environment keeps a backseat. Thereafter, the third topic, we tried to understand how Australia's free trade pact, interim free trade pact, is going to impact the pharma sector, and pharmaceutical sector now has more access into Australia itself, but fast track entry because of the aspect of comparable regulatory reports being used if needed so that they can fast track entry. Fourth topic was related to when we talk about this was the Veterans Day, if you want to discuss this, which is the Soul of Steel Challenge and the aspect of border tourism and endurance. And the last topic which we discussed is MFIs, microfinance institutions. What you need to remember here is any loan less than 1 lakh rupees is considered micro loan, and the concept of collateral free less than or up to 3 lakh rupees as the annual income of the family. Interest, not interest free, but interest lesser than in the market itself, and they are now the driver of change and financial inclusion in India itself. So with this, let's go to the mains question. 2 questions, trying to practice the 2 important aspects we've done here. First, the curative petition in the Bhopal gas tragedy case is testimony to the fact that justice for the victims of this tragedy is incomplete. Comment. That's a comment aspect Therefore, you need to keep it simple, which is that you don't have to go too negative, too positive. You just say that the curative petition has been put through into the Supreme Court itself, and what is on face value it seems is that 725 crores is not enough and injustice has been done. Long term impact itself. Therefore, yes, injustice has been done. We need to change the course of justice itself. Discuss the importance of the free trade agreement with Australia for the pharma sector in India. This is a simplification. Technically, it's an interim free trade pact, but the question I'm anticipating 1 year later can be like this, which is free trade agreement with Australia. How does it impact the pharma sector? Not with Australia specifically, gives market access, but creates a precedence, a breakthrough, which is that it allows for regulatory bodies reports being used, therefore fast track entry into other countries, which is going to increase India's spread. And because India is in a lot of markets, 55% into sectors which are US FDA, therefore we need to make sure that the export sector gets a boost. With this, I would like to end the session. I hope you found these 50 minutes very, very productive for yourself. And as always, there will be a quiz which is going to be uploaded as soon as this session is over on the Telegram channel. So do go and subscribe to our Telegram channel. If you're liking these sessions, like, share and subscribe this session. Do like it so that we know that you're liking it. Comment on what you want if you're appreciating our efforts. We have been starting a new initiative. We just had polity this week also. Science and technology this week is coming through. So we're trying to make it as comprehensive as possible on YouTube. So thank you so much for your patience. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.